So which one am I supposed to look at?
Oh, you can look at me. I'm just gonna sit right
Oh,
here.
okay.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay. Well, I guess the story I want to tell is about the time I got locked in a cemetery. So I was in Austin and I had just moved there. This is several years ago. And I didn't have anything to do on one evening in particular. So I got up my bike and I went riding. And I saw this old cemetery that I had heard was one of the oldest cemeteries. And me being a weirdo, I kind of like cemeteries. I think there's something romantic about them. Or maybe it was my weird obsession with Anne Rice when I was in high school. I don't know. But I decided to go in and go walk around. So, I'm walking around, looking at all the gravestones, being like weird and gothy and walking around a cemetery by myself. And keep in mind, this is like around 6, 7 at night or something like that. So it's not quite dark, but I didn't think about the fact that cemeteries typically close at dusk. So I locked my bike up by the entrance. Very visible from the entrance, mind you. And, I'm walking around, looking at stuff, and, reading tombstones, whatever people normally do in a cemetery, I guess. And so I finished, walking around, looking at stuff, and I come back, and the gate's locked. And this was in a part of Austin that I was running the freeway. I don't know, for whatever reason, they had razor wire on the top of the fences, so it wasn't easily climbable. And for whatever reason, I hadn't brought my cell phone, and I was waiting, and I waited for like a while, hoping someone would walk out, because it was in a residential area. And so I kept hoping somebody would walk by and I could get somebody to, call somebody, or I don't even know what, just somebody to like try to help me out of the situation. And so it's starting to get darker and darker, and I'm like, I am not fucking spending the night in a goddamn cemetery. Like, every horror movie I've ever seen flashes through my head, and I'm like, yeah, this is not how this is gonna go down. So then panic sets in, so you kind of start trying to think of, you're like, okay, well, what if I scream? I screamed a few times, like, hello? Anybody? Nobody. There's nobody around. And by the way, what an asshole. This guy saw my bike locked up at the entrance, or whoever was, locked up, and still just like, didn't bother trying to look for me, just locked up the cemetery with me inside of it. And so finally, I get to the very front of the gates, and it's one of these ones, it's pretty tall, probably 10, 11, 12 feet tall. And so I try to see if I can climb it just to get over, because I'm like, at this point, I'm willing to abandon my bike just to, get the fuck out of a cemetery at night. And so I find out, like, with some great difficulty, I'm not a very tall person, I can actually scale the fence and manage not to, rip a hole in my crotch or something trying to climb over the fence. So I'm like, okay. So then I start scheming, and they have this big, giant padlock between the two cemetery gates. So I managed to get my bike, which this is my first bike. It was like a Huffy road bike that was my stepmom's. I literally stole out of my parents' garage. And so, heavy is like, super, super heavy. And so I managed to, like, get this thing over my head and, like, get it to balance on the padlocks of the fence. And I managed to climb over. And I climb over somehow without breaking my leg on the way down. And then I have to get the damn bike off the padlock and over the fence. And so I somehow managed to lift this entire thing over my head, over the padlock, and to, like, squeeze it through that small opening in between the section of the fences. And so, yeah, and I almost, like, dropped it on myself. I'm amazed I made it out of there without either being eaten by zombies, trapped in the cemetery, or breaking something on the fall down from the fence. So yeah, so that's my story about getting locked into a cemetery and almost having to spend the night there.